All right, let's get right into it. The filmmaker Vivek Agnihotri, you probably know him from The Kashmir Files, has pretty much built a career on making controversial films. And now, he's got a new project called The Bengal Files, and believe me, it's already kicking up a huge storm. And the movie isn't even out yet.
And Agnihotri himself basically threw gasoline on the fire with this statement. He's claiming like the pushback he's getting for this new film is even worse than what he saw with his last one. So, you know the stage is set for a major showdown.
So that's the big question, right? What is this movie even about, and why is it causing such an uproar already? That's what we're going to unpack here. We'll look at what's been happening, what the film is claiming, and the whole controversy around the man himself.
So, this whole thing really blew up recently, not in a movie theater, but in the city of Kolkata, where a simple promotional event just went completely haywire.
So here's what he says went down. He had this whole plan to launch the film's trailer. He lands in Kolkata, and boom, the first multiplex backs out. Then the second one cancels. And finally, he's at a five-star hotel trying to hold the event, and he claims someone literally cut the wires to his equipment right in the middle of the program. So what was the reason? Why all the drama? Well, Agnihotri says this is the explanation one of the venues gave him. Basically, a flat-out admission that even showing a trailer for his film was a political non-starter in that state.
Okay, so to really get why this is so explosive, we have to rewind a bit and look at the history the film is actually about. Because for Agnihotri, this isn't just about making a movie. It's about completely reframing a huge, pivotal moment in India's past.
You see, a huge piece of Agnihotri's whole argument comes down to the words he uses. He makes this really sharp distinction. He says a riot is when two sides are fighting each other. But what happened in Calcutta, he argues, was a genocide, which, in his book, means a one-sided, planned massacre. So, in Agnihotri's version of events, it all kicks off on August 16th with the call for Direct Action Day. His film alleges that for the first 2 days, it was just Hindus being targeted and killed, while the police did nothing. Only after that, he says, did a man named Gopal Mukherjee organize a Hindu retaliation, which then spiraled into revenge killings in other places. And this is the absolute key for him. He's saying this was no accident, not at all. He points to several things as evidence that this was all planned out. He says the chief minister at the time gave this fiery speech referencing a famous Islamic battle, all with the goal of changing Calcutta's population through violence. He also claims the whole police force was manipulated, with Muslim inspectors swapped into key stations overnight, and the rest of the cops basically told to take a holiday for 2 days. And this really gets to the heart of his claim. For Agnihotri, this event wasn't just some tragic side story in history. No, he's 100% convinced it was the trigger, the single event that directly led to the partition of India. He believes the violence was so bad, it scared the Congress Party into thinking that dividing the country was the only way to prevent it from happening everywhere. Which, of course, brings us to the filmmaker himself. Who is Vivek Agnihotri in all this? Is he a historian trying to tell an untold story? Is he a truth teller? Or, as his critics would say, is he a propagandist who's just trying to stir up trouble? On one side, you have the critics saying his movies just rip society apart and pour salt on old wounds. And his comeback, he says, hey, society's already ripped apart. You can't divide something that's already divided. He just sees himself as a storyteller holding up a mirror to the problems that are already there. So what's his mission, according to him? Well, he basically paints it as a history lesson that's long overdue. He makes this comparison saying Jewish people know about the Holocaust, Black people know about slavery, but young Hindus in India, he claims, are totally unaware of what he calls their own genocides. So for him, these films are about filling that gap in knowledge.
But this mission, it's not just talk. He says it's had some serious real-world consequences for him personally. The fight isn't just on Twitter or newspapers. It's gotten very, very real.
How serious? Well, let's start with a number. 3. That's how many fatwas, those are religious edicts, he claims have been issued against him since the Kashmir Files came out. And that's had a huge impact on his personal life, on his family. He says because of all the security threats, he can't even do something as simple as ride in the same car with his own kids. It's a pretty powerful image of the kind of pressure he says he's under. It's not just threats, either. Things have gotten legal. The family of Gopal Mukherjee, the man he's calling a hero in his film, has actually filed a police complaint against him. But Agnihotri kind of brushes it off, saying they're just being used by his political enemies.
He promises that Mukherjee is the hero of the movie and that once the family actually sees it, they'll be happy. So, with all this political fire swirling around him, how does Agnihotri see himself? He's actually very defiant about what his role is and what it isn't.
Well, he literally wears his identity on his sleeve, or, well, on his chest. He's often seen wearing this t-shirt with this very direct message. And he says this shirt is basically his way of fighting back against certain questions he gets asked. Why can't you solve the Kashmir issue? Or why don't you fix the government in Bengal? This is his answer. He's making it crystal clear. I make political films, sure, but I am not a politician. And really, his final message to anyone trying to stop him is pretty blunt. He's saying, look, you can talk to me, you can reason with me, you can even ask me nicely, but you can't intimidate me. It's a clear line in the sand against anyone he thinks is trying to silence him. So where does that leave us? You know, whether you see this guy as a brave historian, a pot stirrer, or just a storyteller, the whole controversy around the Bengal Files brings up a much bigger question for all of us. In a world flooded with information and misinformation, what's the actual job of a filmmaker, and how much power do their stories really have to change how we all remember the past? It really makes you think, doesn't it?